What it do with you? Welcome to another Fight Club podcast, and we're gonna be talking about these bitches. But remember, we won't talk about it. So we're gonna start out with the main event: Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. But not just start with it right away. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about the whole overall event. It was an exciting ass card. I'm not gonna lie. This is a good card. It hasn't been a good one that got me this excited in a while. Even as I was watching it. Some good fights, some good vibes, and all of that shit tonight. But it was in the morning for me. It started at fucking 10 for me, and probably for most people. But most people don't live in the East Coast, so probably for a large percent of people. But not a bad time. It ended even kind of early. It was cool. It ended around like 5, and I was like, damn, I could go train right now, but I didn't feel like it. It was a Saturday. But let's just jump right straight into it since I got nothing else to say. Glover Teixeira versus Jan Blachowicz. Not what I expected, honestly. It was a rather quick match. It went to round 2, which is, honestly, I thought it finished in round 1. Like, from when I look back on it. Jan came out trying to strike, but he was being backed up by Glover pretty easily. Glover was just getting in there, trying to get at him. Some strikes were exchanged. Total strikes were 53 for Jan and 71 for Teixeira. Significant strikes was 28 to 23, and fuck everything else. We don't really care. Again, that's just mainly what I saw. Teixeira was just backing up Jan, trying to trap him. Jan was doing a good job in the second round of stopping the takedowns after he shot a couple times. But in the first, as soon as he shot his first takedown, Teixeira took him down and held him down for the whole round. Not any significant ground and pound. I don't believe he passed guard or did anything crazy with his jiu-jitsu, just kind of establishing that takedown in the top pressure, trying to smother him, all that nice shit. Jan did look a little tired and flustered after the first round. In the second round, he came out and his movement was very, very different and he looked very blocky, but that's usually how he does move, even against Israel and against what's his name, Dominic Reyes. He was very blocky the way he moved. Pretty impressive that Teixeira was able to beat Blachowicz. Blachowicz did beat Adesanya, but then again, Adesanya is no wizard on the ground, which he should be. I don't understand why his ground game isn't very advanced. I don't know. Like, at this point, he's a striker. He knows how to strike. I feel like he shouldn't even be really training striking. He should only just be turning on the engine and turning it off. Maybe a couple sprints, maybe a couple laps. But he should be becoming a wizard, which he did get better after the Jan loss to his advantage. But this isn't about Israel, so let's go back to the niggas we talking about. But Teixeira takes him down in the second round after a couple of failed attempts, which was pretty cool to see Jan really defending Teixeira's, but he was still getting smothered against the cage and backed up and cornered and then trapped. And Teixeira was relentless with his takedowns, which is something people don't usually do who want to take people down. They'll usually shoot once and then they're done, or they're done for a while. But Teixeira was very, very persistent on the takedown. He shot 6 times and got 2, which doesn't tell the full story, but it was only 2 rounds, so that's a lot of attempts for 2 rounds. And he got 2, and both times he got him down, he held him down. And the second time he held him down, he pretty much choked his ass out. I'm trying to remember the sequence, but it didn't. 2 submission attempts, which is interesting. I'm trying to remember the sequence, but I can't remember too much. I'm pretty sure in the second round he took him down. He started smothering him, landing some ground and pound. I want to say he passed guard, but I don't remember him actively passing guard. But he probably did. It's Teixeira, black belt and shit, Brazilian motherfucker. But eventually, Jan gave up his back, and Teixeira flattened him out. I do remember this. He got the hooks in while he was flattened out. And while he was flattened out, he sunk in the choke. And it looked like it was on the chin. And it wasn't a rear naked, but it was a rear naked. It was more of a crank, similar to how when Khabib had Conor. He didn't have his hand. The choking hand wasn't on the other supporting hand's bicep. It was more like he grabbed both of his hands together and grasped the lock and kind of just cranked on it. And that's what Teixeira did to the neck, I guess. And Glover tapped pretty quickly. Or not Glover. Blachowicz tapped pretty quickly. And that was that. But the fight of the night for me, honestly, was definitely Peter Young versus Corey Sandhagen. So let's go there. Damn, them motherfuckers threw strikes. Corey Sandhagen threw 449 strikes. But the total strikes were 158 to 172 of Corey. Significant strikes was 49 to 169 of Corey. which doesn't make sense because Corey lost his fight. The score was 49-46, 49-46, 49-46. Damn. It went all 5 rounds. Even Corey pretty much outstruck Peter Young in all of the striking departments, which is interesting. He might have landed most of his strikes in a single round. Now, this fight, there was so much that happened on the feet alone. There was a little bit of ground game, but Jan mainly just showed his superior grappling. Sandhagen would just kind of get to the position. He'd get to the legs, to the hips, but he would kind of just hesitate just ever so slightly, and Jan would, in that window of time, gain his footing and reverse most of the positions that Corey was trying to put him in. But on the feet, the first round, Corey came out doing everything perfect, in my opinion. He came out doing what he needed to do to stop Jan. And he was pretty much, even throughout 1 through 5, the match was close. Jan dropped Sandhagen in the 3rd and wobbled him a couple times, I believe, in the 4th. So you could give those 2 rounds to Jan, but the 5th was also you could get. I watched it the second time. The 5th you could get to Jan, but Corey did a lot better than I thought in the 5th when I watched it live. But as soon as Corey came out, he was cross-checking with his rear hand when he was in orthodox at least. But he switched so much. Like, he was basically in both stances the entire time. But he was cross-checking and checking Peter Young's lead hand so he could nullify the jab, which he did a very good job of. And it helped him set up the leg kicks, which he was throwing. And he was also feinting, switching up from head to body, and throwing along various combinations, usually ending with kicks. And he was doing everything he needed to do, shutting down Jan's movement with the kicks. But Jan's usually very stationary, so it doesn't really matter that much for Jan, I guess. But Jan just kept coming at him, trying to push the pace. And Corey was mainly backing up, just keeping his distance, playing with his jab, sticking it in Jan's face. Jan's defensive maneuvering and fighting is beautiful. He was able to just slip and catch a lot of the punches on his guard. He did take clean shots, of course, everybody does. But if you watched it with an untrained eye, you could even be like, did he even get punched once? But again, super close round, or super close fight. Jan was, I was trying to see what he was doing, and he was mainly just focused on his straight punching and landing his straight punches. But he was doing some crafty things. He was spinning and throwing some good hooks after the spins and even before the spins. And that's how he dropped him. He spun at one point. He smacked Corey Sandhagen with a spinning back fist, and then he followed it up with a hook. And he dropped him after that. Clean, most beautiful shit I've seen off of spinning attacks. And he was very disciplined with his spinning attacks. He wouldn't throw them out too much. He would wait and calculate to try and throw them at a good time. But he was struggling to find Sandhagen's distance. He was mainly throwing and just coming up kind of short. But his kicks were there the entire time. His body kicks, his head kicks. And later in the fight, he did land some strong head kicks that Corey kind of just ate, which is pretty impressive to just eat a full-on head kick. Only I've seen Yoel do that. But Yoel's head kick was still worse. He ate that shit shin. He kind of ate the foot of it. And he even ate a heel, which is worse than a foot. It might even be worse than a shin. But I'm trying to think what Sandhagen exactly was his plan. I was too focused on Corey Sandhagen. I was loving what I was seeing, and I was loving it too much. I was a little biased, so I wasn't watching Peter Yang too heavily. But Peter Yang was strong in the leg kicks as well. His takedown defense was strong as hell. Corey Sandhagen shot 6 times, only really got 1. But even in that one, Peter Yang immediately scrambled up to his feet and got free. He used, I don't know what you call it, but it's when he used a lot of different techniques to stop the takedowns. But usually, the most significant I would see was he would put his hand across Corey's center line from the inside of from his chest, so the front part of his body, not his back, obviously. And he would reach into between his crotch to try and stop the shot, which it would work. And then he would switch off, try and spin around, and usually get in a superior position as soon as the scramble started. He would look for the superior position, which is what I like to see. So I feel like what Corey really lacked in the grappling department was his chain wrestling, because he would get to the positions. He would get to a solid position in when he would go for the takedowns, but he wouldn't finish at all. And if you give Peter Young just that inch, even with Aljo, he would just stop the fucking takedown. Like, his wrestling is almost on par with his boxing. But man, Jan, I think his boxing won him this fight, because he was landing, I feel like, the cleaner, heavier punches, and is why they probably gave it to him. But on the numbers, Corey Sandhagen outstruck him by a significant amount. Like, the significant strikes was almost over 20. No, actually exactly 20 strikes, because Jan landed 149 significant strikes and Sandhagen 169. And even with total strikes, it was 158 to 172. Sandhagen was outstriking him. There was no question about it. But that's pretty much all of it. But as progressively through the rounds, you could tell Sandhagen was doing less and less and less, and Peter Yan was slightly taking over as each round went. And that's where I get like a little mixed when it comes to the scoring, because if you could tell, Corey Sandhagen was definitely winning the first. I feel like he won the second. The third goes to Jan because he did drop Corey in the third. The fourth I would have gave to Jan, and the fifth I would have gave to Jan. You could give to Jan, I would say. So I guess that's how you could see that he won. He won third, fourth, and fifth, which was just solid from Jan, I guess. But as each round went, you could tell Corey was doing a little less and a little less. And I don't think it was because he was getting tired. I feel like he was stopping his game plan in a sense. He wasn't kicking as much. He wasn't cross-checking as much, and he wasn't being as aggressive. But that was due to Jan's power and Jan's ability to straight punch and catch his chin. So I don't think it was too far-fetched of a decision. I would have liked a split decision, because I could see Corey winning if he wins 4 and 5, but I would have to go and rewatch it to see how close those rounds actually were. The third round was definitely on. The next fight, which was pretty quick, Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. Now, I feel bad for Dan Hooker, because that man's got... Islam was like, I didn't even need a shower after the fight. I was completely dry, which is damn. But Islam Makhachev comes out looking like a beast. Hooker came out, balls to the wall. He didn't give a fuck. He said, fuck you, Makhachev. I don't care if you could take me down. Should have cared, though. He came out jabbing, looking to establish a nice little distance. Not a lot happened on the feet besides Hooker throwing a decent amount of jabs, trying to find his distance, trying to set that aggression down, that he wasn't trying to move forward, not let Islam Makhachev move forward on him. But he made a mistake of throwing the low kick against a fucking deadly grappler, in the sense that he will fucking grab you. There's nothing you could do for him not to grab you. The only thing you could do is try and get out of him grabbing you by grabbing him. You know what I'm saying? But Dan Hooker goes in, he throws a jab, and then as Makhachev is throwing a left hook or a right hook, because he wasn't southpaw, Hooker went to throw a low kick, and Islam's ability to see the low kick while throwing a punch was pretty impressive, because as soon as Dan Hooker threw that low kick, he kept throwing his hook, his three, but he just slightly reached down and grabbed the leg, and as soon as he grabbed that leg, he just abandoned the three, which kind of landed on the forearms or on the face of Hooker, one of the two, and he kind of just went straight for the legs, and he plomped him on his ass, and then Hooker he looked to back up to the fence and try, I guess, wall walk or something, and he backed up to the fence, but Makhachev just stacked him. He picked up his legs, he picked up his base, which is what you want to do, especially against someone who's trying to use the fence. You elevate their hips in order for them not to be able to use that fence, not to go to their knees, and that's what he did. He elevated his knees and started to smother Hooker with some strong pressure on his abdominal, and Hooker he wasn't really using his forearms to frame off of Islam's face and try and look to create some space. And even if he tried to create space, Islam had a strong grip on his hips. I believe he got a full body lock at one point around his hips while he was elevating him against the fence. And then he just dumps him off to the side and tries to continue to flatten him out. And as soon as he's flattening out Hooker, he still has Hooker's legs gripped and elevated. And he starts to try and pass. And he kind of passes into half guard and allows Hooker to have this weird butterfly hook that he could have used. But the problem where I feel like Hooker he wasn't using his arms and his legs in a synchronized, efficient way. His legs kind of just were there after a while, and he was just looking for position on the arms. And Islam started to switch off from that body lock after landing into the side, the half guard, started to pin the head and control. And he starts to slip up his hips higher and higher on Hooker, eventually to the point where I'm like, damn, he's about to get side control. And he does as soon as he jumps to side control. But before he jumps to side control, he was isolating the arm of Hooker in order to gain a little bit of more control and pinning the head at the same time. And once he had enough control, he jumped over to side control, and then he started to isolate the arm even more and put pressure heavy on Hooker. Let's rewind a little bit. Just as he was passing to side control, he put his far leg, so it would be his right leg in this case, because his other leg was caught in a figure four due to that half guard, or it was just mainly wrapped around Hooker's extended leg, not the butterfly hook leg. But he managed to maneuver it and kind of loosen up that little. He gave up that kind of butterfly hook. I don't know what else to call it, but it wasn't exactly a butterfly hook, but it was hooked into his leg. He kind of maneuvered that out of there, hooked his other leg, and then passed over as he put pressure with his free leg onto Hooker's shoulders. But after he passed into side control, he starts to isolate his arm, Hooker's far arm, and he starts to pin his close arm under Hooker, which is beautiful. One thing that I noticed he was doing was he elevated Hooker's arm, the one he was trying to isolate for the Kimura, toward him in order to elevate his head too and to stack all his weight onto his other arm, which he had pinned under Hooker. So Hooker was fucked. Like, he was not in a good position, and Hooker wasn't really using his legs. And after he stepped over Hooker's head, it was over. Like, he was going to break his arm, or Hooker was going to tap. I don't know if Hooker yelled tap, 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 but he tapped, and that was that. First round, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. The next fight was Alexander Volkov versus Tybura. I didn't really watch it. I got bored, and I didn't really give a fuck, so we'll skip that one. But the next one was a highly anticipated match, probably what I was keeping my eyes on the most on the whole card, which was Jiang Lang, whatever the fuck his name is, the Leech versus Khamzat Chimaev, the Wolf. And again, Chimaev goes into a match and doesn't take a single fucking strike. A single fucking strike. Like, he threw total of one strike, didn't land it to the head, and it just didn't land it. And Chimaev landed 58 strikes with 25 significant strikes, and all to the head with 3 minutes of control time, 2 submission attempts, and 1 success. Chimaev comes out immediately, heavily pressures what are we gonna call it? Jing. We're gonna call him Jing. Jing Lang. We're gonna call him Jing Lang because that's his name. So he comes out and pressures Jing Lang and his hard feints with his hands. He's feinting, trying to draw an attack. And as he's feinting, he's getting closer and closer and closer. So he's closing the distance, which is gonna force Jing Lang either to back up or to throw a strike. Funny enough, or lucky enough, he throws a 2. And as soon as he throws that 2, Makhachev switches levels hard and shoots. And as soon as he shoots, he has the hips, and he could have driven through it, but he might have got sprawled out. So he readjusts his shot by lowering his levels even more, gets a tighter grip, and eventually tries to drive upward to take him down. But Jing Lang does the right thing. He starts to try and sprawl out and push his head down. And as he's doing that, Chimaev switches rounds, goes around, angles off, which is beautiful chain wrestling. He angles off to his back and then finds an opportunity to elevate Jing. And as soon as he elevates him, he just elevates him and walks him over to Dana White and starts yelling like, "I'm the fucking king, I'm the best," or whatever the fuck he was saying. And as soon as he says that, he drops him down and he starts to try and take his back by throwing in hooks. But Jing does the right thing to crowd the defense, to try and use the fence to his advantage. And then he ends up in a position to where he's on his knees with one leg sprawled out, trying to build his base. And Chimaev has a strong, tight waist. And he's just trying to look for position with his other hand by striking Jing's face. And I was going to say his body, but not really his body. He was just hitting his face. And he's hitting his face, holding on to the tight waist. And Jing's trying to defend trying to grab his hand, trying to look for position. And he was trying to hold on to Chimaev's head with one of his arms, which I think was a mistake because he was using his closest arm to Chimaev to try and wrap around his head. And then the other one, he was trying to stop the strikes from Chimaev. I feel like he should have focused both of his hands on 2-on-1, and he could have got out of there with some nice head position. That tight waist was a problem, and the sprawled out leg he had, Chimaev was trying to hook. But eventually, Chimaev used the tight waist and his hand to try and get behind them, and then he used his body lock to anchor him down. He was doing that after he took him down too, before he got into that position I was talking about, the sprawled out on a knee. But as soon as he got around that, he tries to anchor him down with a body lock, and he starts to collect one of his legs with his legs. He starts to hook it. Eventually, he takes his back by switching off to the opposite direction into the cage after using the tight weights to lock his hands down and pull him down. And then he gets a little hook in, and he starts to try and flatten him out. And he does flatten him out at one point. He starts banging headshots. He starts just like, you can fucking hear this, man. He was like steam little engine just pumping him with his little piston jab. It wasn't even a piston jab. It was just a hammer. It was a fucking Russian hammer. That's what that was. It was hammering away at his head. And even the commentators were like, you better watch out. They might end it. I didn't think they were going to end it because Jing Lang didn't look like he was too hurt. But they were significant strikes. I'll tell you that. He kept doing it. And eventually, Jing was flattened out. His right arm was toward the cage. And he went to his left hip. And as he went to his left hip, Chimaev took his back completely and then put him on. He took his back and put him on his stomach, so his back was on his chest, and he had 2 hooks in. He didn't go for the body lock, which was interesting, and he kept trying to attack that rear naked. After one attempt, he switches off. He faces Ling Yang to the fence now, so Ling Yang is looking at the fence, or Jing Lang is looking at the fence, and then that's when he lands the rear naked choke, chokes him out, and that's that. Impressive. I didn't think he was going to run through Jing Lang, because Jing Lang was Chimaev's first real test. Chimaev did fight a couple, 3 people before this in the UFC, and he ran through both of them, one punch to one, and did the same thing he did to Jing Lang, but just worse, a lot worse. But he choked out Jing Lang in the first round, which was his first legitimate skilled opponent. Top 10, I think he was 11, so Chimaev is now ranked 11. And impressive. He fucking ran through a ranked opponent like it was nothing. He picked him up, slammed him, choked him out. Took him less than 2 minutes. Literally. Less than 2 fucking minutes. Or maybe 2 minutes, because it ended at 3:16. So I don't feel like doing math, but he ended him in the first fucking round. That's all I know. And I can't wait to see who he fights next. Because Jing Lang, granted, Jing Lang, he wasn't the best wrestler or best grappler in the division at all. But I still think right now Chimaev, or not that I still think, but after witnessing what Chimaev did to a top ranked opponent, he's probably top 3 in the division, honestly. I was looking at the rankings the other day. Let's look at them right now. Let's pull them up. But I was looking at the rankings, and I don't really see anybody beating him besides Kobe, or not even necessarily beating him, just putting up a fight against him. I think it's either Kobe or Usman. I still think Usman is his hardest fight, because I don't think Kobe is as strong as Usman in wrestling in the sense of just pure strength. I think Kobe will pose more of a threat when it comes to the striking for Chimaev. But I think Kobe could probably hold off Chimaev's takedowns a little bit. But the rankings are, so he beat Li Jinglang, he was ranked 11. So Jeff Neal, Benil Muhammad is above. Jeff Neal is number 10, but Benil Muhammad is number 9. Neil Magny's 8, George Masvidal 6, Michael Chiesa 6. So Jorge Masvidal and Chiesa are both 6. Interesting. Stephen Thompson 5th, Vicente Luque 4th, Leon 3rd, Gilbert 2nd, and Kobe 1st, with the champ being Usman. So I think he pretty much runs through everybody. Jorge Masvidal might pose a threat. I feel like Jorge has been working on his wrestling, especially after losing twice to Usman. Second time getting knocked the fuck out, which was unfortunate. But I think Jorge could pose a threat. And Vicente Luque, I think, is easy scraps for him. But Vicente Luque does have that submission. But I don't think I think his wrestling will just drown Vicente Luque and not allow for any submission attempts. Stephen Thompson, best thing he could do is run away and snipe him. He can't stay in front of him for too long. But if Gilbert Burns could get Thompson down, definitely fucking Chimaev could get him down. Leon Edwards, if he has a strong enough takedown defense to defend against Usman, then he should have a strong enough takedown defense to stop Chimaev. But Chimaev might just be the best wrestler in this division right now, so we don't even know. He's still a fucking X factor even after beating Li Jing, because of how convincing he did that. We don't know what are the limits of his ability, or even what is good enough to even slow him down to give a fair fight, because that wasn't even hard for him. First round, just finished this nigga like nothing. But I do think his hardest fights are Leon Kobe and Usman in that order. I think he beats Gilbert pretty convincingly. Even though Gilbert is pretty dangerous on the feet, he's just a harder Vicente Luque. But he is very small, so I don't know. He shouldn't be weak, but still, it's going to be interesting to see how Chimaev continues to go through the rankings in this division. But I guess let's go to the next fight. Ankalaev versus Oezdemir. Very interesting fight. From what I saw, Ankalaev was playing the distance, and he had the more accurate shots, the more accurate straight punches, and he was using his kicks effectively to keep Oezdemir at bay from coming in, because Oezdemir was posing a threat at one point, but Ankalaev was pretty much controlling this whole fight, and he just outclassed Oezdemir. Total strike being 79 to 56, or 76 to 56, and significant strikes being 66 to 48. Damn, I got hiccups. I'm talking too much. I watched it, and there was not a lot to say. What I did like about Ankalaev was he was using straight kicks and low kicks to set up his hands, and he had very quick hands off the shot. He didn't need much time to get him out there. The speed was incredible for a light heavyweight. It was giving Oezdemir problems, and Oezdemir couldn't find a way to come in without getting hit. At first, in the first opening rounds, Oezdemir had no fucking head movement, which is why he got dropped. He wasn't moving his head after his strikes. And Ankalaev was just finding he was just that two. It was just 1-2, 1-2. He was finding that shit just clean every time. Just wasn't missing. And his body kicking was good. His leg kicking wasn't too good, only 3 leg kicks. But what I really did like was his kick in the body. He would mix it up with round kicks and straight kicks and use his hands to bring Oezdemir's guard up and then sneak in those straight kicks. And anybody who straight kicks is instantly on my that's that nigga list. You know what I'm saying? But great fight. I feel like Ankalaev could have finished Oezdemir. And honestly, I think for the light heavyweight division, it's looking pretty good. We're getting some good contenders coming up. Yuri should fight Glover, and that's going to be a good test for Yuri because Yuri's, I think, weakness is takedown. Or not weakness, but his least proficient area or dimension is takedown defense, or just the ground and grappling in general. I think his takedown defense is pretty good. But I've seen him slip out of some nutty fucking things. Like, I've seen somebody get a full rear naked on him. Like, his dumbass nigga was on all fours and trying to build his base to get up, and he just looks up and smiles, and then the other guy grabs onto a fucking rear naked, just a free neck open and wide for him to grab. But he got out of that, so it was interesting. But he is going to be fighting a way higher level grappler in Glover, who's able to submit Jan, which is pretty impressive, I would say. So that's going to be a good test for Yuri. But I think right now, I don't know the rankings in the light heavyweight division, but I have them pulled up. So I think Yuri beats Alexander Rakic and Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos. He beat Reyes already. But I think his biggest test right now is going to be Ankalaev. But I think Ankalaev's passivity will play a significant role in him losing that fight, because I do got Yuri. Yuri just does a lot more. Then we got the prelims. Some pretty good fights. Ribas beats Jan Dariba. Didn't watch it too much. Fuck that shit. I didn't really care. But Ribas was coming out with some strong aggression. Pretty much all I really got. The next fight was Ramos versus Tukhugov. However the fuck. What's his first name? Zubiera. Russian nigga. That's all I know. Against Brazilian Ramos. I like this fight. It was some high level shit. And Ramos was just one step behind Tukhugov, whatever, man, the Russian nigga. He was just one step behind them, but he was tricky enough to just take his disadvantage and his proficiency to be able to land on the Russian dude, and he turned that into trickiness because he was able to, that one spinning fucking elbow almost won him the fight, but he was just tricky. But I want to say his name, but I can't. Tukhugov, whatever. The Russian nigga was coming out with strong pressure at first, no regard for Ramos' striking or anything. As soon as he got hit with that, he took a little more measured approach, slow it down, started to land his punches and trap Ramos. It was a close fought battle. Ramos had some good kicks, but he couldn't land the hands, and the kicks were disrupted because of the Russians' pressure. He was just coming in hard and trying to not give him space. And his grappling was just superior. He should have gone to it a lot more. He did, I guess, because he did shoot 7 fucking times, and he only got 2. So I guess Ramos's takedown defense was definitely there. But great fight. I had fun watching that one. There's some more stuff on the card. Some good fights overall. The next one was Duraev versus Kaplov, which was an explosively good, fun fight. On the feet, they were pretty even, but Duraev just smothered him with the takedowns and stole the win. I think it was in the first or second round. Yeah, second round was where he took him down and just smothered him in full mount and almost even finished him. Then we have the most questionable fight of the card, and it's just I was so mixed on this. But what was his name? I can't see it because it's dotted. Dos Santos versus Saint Denis. A Frenchman, special ops. They didn't shut the fuck up about that. The commentary was trying to emphasize the fact that he was special ops force. But from what I saw, the special ops force, Saint Denis, he was definitely not a striker from his posture and how he walked around. He was most definitely a grappler. He shot 14 times, but he only got 2 takedowns. And Dos Santos had the way better striking. And I was watching it. I was like, well, Dos Santos, if Saint Denis can't move his head out the way, Dos Santos is going to time him and eventually find him with a hard punch and hurt him real bad. And that's what he did. But he couldn't put him away. And at one point, I thought the fight was going to be over. But the ref, I guess he was just zoning out or some shit. Because he just kept letting Saint Denis take a beating. And to Saint Denis' credit, even while he was taking that beating, he kept throwing. And after that, he came back and just the next round, after taking a fucking deadly beating, just kept coming back and trying to hurt Dos Santos. And even at some points, he even was tagging up Dos Santos. I don't think he was hurting him too much, but he was tagging him up and definitely implying his will and showing how strong he was mentally. But I didn't like how much damage he was taking. Saint Denis was he lost some years after this fight. That's all I know. For such a young prospect, or how young is he even? He's 25. Yeah, young ass nigga. So kind of sad. Took a lot of damage, a lot more than I like to see. But then again, it's him, not me. But other than that, this was a great card. I had fun. Enjoyed watching all of the fights. Damn. I didn't start as soon as the prelim started because I was too busy watching some Full Metal Alchemist. You know what I'm saying? Getting my alchemy skills up there. But can't wait for next weekend. We got another pack full of cards. I'm trying to think of some more shit to say, but I ain't got much to say. So, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Makes more sense saying it that way because all you watched was just still fucking image. But stay dangerous. Keep training. And remember, shut your fucking mouth. We don't talk about it.